Welcome into a Friday edition of Husker247 Daily. I'm Michael Bruntz. Brian Christopherson joins me on a frigid Friday morning in Nebraska. Brian, how you holding up?
Uh, Pretty good. I'm about to venture up to Minnesota tonight, so I just hope the old Toyota RAV has the guts in it to start up every time up there, because I think it's even 15 or 20 degrees colder there from what I've read.
Yeah, if you can get colder, you should do it. Just keep going north.
Yeah.
Big one tomorrow for Nebraska basketball in the morning. A little brunch and basketball at the barn. 11 a.m. tip there. Let's start with football though first. Transfer portal is largely closed. The news there is largely done. However, the high school transfer portal getting hot and heavy the last few days. Nebraska quarterback commit Trey Taylor announces that he's going to play his senior season at Millard South. And then yesterday, we also get the news that Tay Ellis, the Nebraska wide receiver commitment out of Texas, is also going to be joining him at Millard South. You talked to Tay after everything kind of went down. What can you tell us kind of about his decision and how all this is going to work together?
Well, what's interesting is that Tay and Trey have not known each other that long, as he said, but it's picked up fast, that connection. Like they talk every day. He said he's like already considered like almost a best friend to him in that short amount of time. And so and naturally, as they're sort of speaking about, their future together at Nebraska and stuff, you're thinking about your senior year of high school. Obviously, the big announcement earlier in the week, a couple days ago, was that Trey Taylor was going to go to Millard South. And Tay Ellis had talked about that some with him too, joining him, and that's a decision he made. Like, he wants to do that. So when Trey gets up here, I assume it's going to be like in May or something like that. They don't have the exact timetable set. Tay Ellis is going to join him. He's pretty amped up about just building that connection as a wide receiver and quarterback, but also his quote was, "We want to win a national championship. We want to do all these great things, but why can't we start now building our connection and make sure we're leaders of the 2027 class we can all establish?" So you heard Trey Taylor say, or he wrote, I think, on social media, like this could be like a redshirt season for him. Actually, while he's in high school, Tay Ellis is looking at it the same way. So I think it's good for them. It's good for Nebraska football. Now, is it good for high school football, this weird landscape we're in? That would be debated by many, probably.
Yeah, it's well in Millard South, obviously, last year the run that they had, just kind of steamrolling everybody. I'll be curious to see what their schedule looks like because I don't think the NSAA has put those out yet. I wouldn't be surprised to see like a regional team on there.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of have to. Like, I think that's kind of where things are headed. But I don't know, other Nebraska commitments in state. You've got Torrey Pittman. Erickson over at Millard North too. But it's definitely, the week has gotten more interesting for high school football. I am kind of eager to see, the benefits of, Trey Taylor was at everything anyways, but, now he's going to be in Lincoln. That there's got to be benefits to, having somebody that's that bought in peer recruiting for you and being around as much as he likely will be once he gets to Lincoln in May.
Yeah, and also besides the peer recruiting aspect, just being around your coaches that are going to be here, I'm sure you're figuring out sort of the playbook and sort of how they work things. You can come down to more practices and watch them, obviously if you're in town. And so I get it completely from their aspect. Like, I'm not down on their decision. To me, like, it makes all the sense in the world if I'm like in Trey Taylor's shoes, actually, why he's doing that. And the other thing I'd say about Trey is he's been a guy throughout his high school career who has worked at a program that was not the powerhouse in his area. Like, they won like 3 or 4 games like 2 years ago, and he helped build them to a playoff team this past season. So he's always been a guy who has been about like hard work and like not taking an easy road. So I wouldn't use that for these guys, like going to Millard South, where they will be the obvious favorites in the state, um, to make some judgment about that on them, because he's a guy who's really grinded. But certainly it's going to be tough for other teams in the state, but it is probably good for Nebraska football, and it's going to be good for media in the state, because we'll be covering a couple of the highlight players in the class just down the road from us on Thursdays and Fridays.
Definitely lots of time at Millard South coming up for a lot of media over the next year here. Let's transition to basketball. Nebraska basketball knocks off Washington the other night. Kind of a, you don't want to say sleepy win, but the second half definitely felt like it was, everybody's like laser focused on what Braden Frager's doing. What kind is he smiling? Like how big is the boot that he has on? Fred said afterwards that they were going to X-ray it out of an abundance of caution, but where do things kind of stand, and what's your level of concern, I guess, with a player who's day to day with that ankle?
I think from what we know now it's better than probably the worst fears some people had when the camera caught him kind of emotional. And I think that was in some part, Connor Segan was praying with them, and it's just sort of an emotional moment where a teammate's there for you. It doesn't necessarily mean like, you have some long-term injury or anything like that, because the latest is that it's a sprained ankle, as said on Wednesday night, that is day to day. Now, day to day can stretch its legs a bit, like that's been used before, and that can mean a couple weeks. And I think in this situation, obviously, and this is how Hoiberg has always proceeded, you're not going to rush him back there too soon. I get that the Michigan game is like a high profile contest and all that, and honestly could have some, like, you could make an argument it has like some Big Ten conference race ramifications. It certainly does at this point for Nebraska, but you have to look at the greater good into March, and just making sure that you don't risk Frager re-injuring that or worsening that situation by coming back too soon. So while it is day to day, I'd be shocked to see him play against Minnesota. I don't think that's going to happen. I would honestly be really surprised to see him play at Michigan. And then I think you start to look at like Sunday against Illinois as like maybe, but then there's a little time after that before I think they're at Rutgers and there's like a 5-day break there. So you could see like at least 3 games that he's out. I think 2 at minimum. Don't know that for sure. Maybe he'll surprise us all, but that's just like from what I've heard, and then also thinking about how Hoiberg has handled these situations in the past. That's where I'm offering that idea.
Is it as simple as Jared Garcia's got to step up now? Like what's the way forward as things are day to day?
I think the thing is that, so they're basically a 7-man rotation and then 8 when you count Garcia. So now you're just straight 7. And yeah, he might have to play a few more minutes, but I think as much as anything, it's probably guys who were playing, like maybe Cale Jacobson, for example. If he's playing like 21 or 22 minutes, now it's like 26, 27, where you have to get like 4 more minutes out of each guy. And so they aren't, some would say they're not the deepest team. I would say they have a pretty normal rotation to most like teams at this point in the season, where basically you settle on 7 or 8. That's not uncommon at all. But when you do get dinged up with one guy, it stretches you. And this is a challenging time in some ways to be stretched, because you have these short rest periods between Minnesota, which is a brunch game, as you mentioned, at 11 a.m., and then Michigan on Tuesday. The other way to look at it, though, Bruntz, is I always look at like protecting your home court in the Big Ten as paramount. And then like when you go on the road, even though we're spoiled right now because they're undefeated, as like bonus type wins, like, like you're getting a plus type win if you win on the road. It's not necessarily something you just expect is automatically going to happen. So this is maybe a skewed viewpoint, and it's my own viewpoint, but I would say I would rather this happen and he's working back to good health while they're on the road, if that makes sense. Because take your shots, and if you fall out short, you fall short. It's not going to ding their metric severely or anything these next couple games. That said, I realize we're in this weird vortex right now where we're thinking about how they're undefeated and there's actually a conference race you could consider and all that stuff. So I don't dismiss like the importance of every time out there, but in some ways I could see an advantage if this was going to happen to it happening as you go on the road. And then you just ask guys to play a few more minutes and see if you got it within you to get it done. It's not going to be easy though.
So Nebraska plays Saturday morning at Minnesota, Tuesday at Michigan, come back Sunday, Illinois. Like you said, you basically have like 6 days between that Illinois game and then the Saturday, another Saturday 11 a.m. tip Central at Rutgers. That's on February 7th. So that's where that
could make a lot of sense.
Falls. Yeah. So that's kind of the runway, I guess, for Frager. I mean, we'll finish up on this. I mean, what has he kind of meant, I guess, over, kind of basically since the turn of the calendar year to only Big Ten play? Like, what has he meant in your mind to this roster that maybe only he can provide?
Well, one of the things he means is he doesn't this team's pretty good at it as a whole, but Frager takes only good mathematical shots for what Hoiberg wants for the most part. Like if you think about his game, it's either open threes or threes where he's comfortable, off his, the move he has set up to shoot it. He might have a guy on him, but he's confident when he rises up on almost every three he takes. And then it's either that or getting downhill, and he eschews taking hardly ever, unless he's forced to, like a 16-footer, or that type of tough two. And in many ways, that's what he's a great representation.
He's metrically perfect.
Yeah, he is. Someone put that out, his numbers, for the data nerds out there about basketball, how he just takes shots like that. And that's exactly him. And he's a finisher. He's not a guy who plays like he's a freshman with 4 minutes left in a game. He plays like I expect to score. Like we saw at the end of Ohio State, they highlighted him on a play when the gym was going crazy. It was down to 2 points. He just sort of worked his way through a defender. It might have been Amari Bynum, actually, young guy too, to score plus the foul. He's just capable of being clutch like that and doesn't seem to worry about the moment for a younger player. So that's what you miss. Late in the game, Minnesota very likely could be tight, and you kind of wish you had Frager as an option out there. There's no doubt about it. So they could pay a price in the short term for it, but I think you just got to view the long term as you decide when to bring him back, and I'm sure that's what they're going to do.
All right, we'll see how Nebraska fares on Saturday, 11 a.m. tip in the Twin Cities. Brian Christopherson will be there for Husker 24/7. We'll have plenty of coverage from that. Coach is out on the road recruiting right now, so plenty going on at Husker 24/7. Keep it locked there. We'll be back with more Husker 24/7 dailies early next week. Thanks for listening.